Welcome to lesson 10. Now that we have our drawings drawn in some details with blocks, hatches and annotations, I'm now going to show you how you can style your drawings to make them much more captivating, engaging, and also add a narrative, a storyline to your projects. By changing color, texture and hatch styles, line weights and layers, you can really start bringing your drawings to life and turning a black and white drawing into something that is really powerful and captivating. Stylizing your drawings will make them much more memorable and also consistent when putting them together in a document. This is where I believe that Rayon becomes really powerful with its graphic capabilities, being able to edit your drawings and stylize them to communicate them in the way that you want to communicate them. So in this lesson, I will demonstrate how you can turn this black and white drawing into 3 different styled drawings. So for the purposes of this lesson, I've put together a composite drawing of the ground floor plan and east elevation. Now the reason why I've done this is because it will make it easier when I'm talking through how to style your drawing to coordinate between the 2 views and to show you how you can implement the styles in both elevation and floor plan. And a composite drawing is really powerful in my opinion. I think they're a really great way of showing the different levels of information that relate to one another on one page. So we've combined them in this instance. Now the way I've combined this is fairly straightforward. All you have to do is head over to your model, highlight the components that you want to copy across, right click, click copy as export. This is really important when you're copying across models. Come back over to your model, right click, and then do paste. And that's how you copy items across. Now defining and building a graphic style that is represented throughout your drawings is really important. Graphic styles really help to encapsulate the viewer to be able to visually enhance your drawings and also to provide some consistency throughout your drawings. So for example, we have a floor plan, we have a section, we have an elevation, we have site plans. If there is a consistency in the graphic style throughout, you can clearly see that there is a narrative, there is a coordination between them, and you can associate these drawings together, which is really important when you're trying to sell your ideas. Now, as I briefly touched upon in the previous lesson when we were discussing annotations, I have a really strong graphic style in my drawings as an architectural designer, and a feature of my drawings is that I really like strong contrasting drawings. As you can see here on my Pinterest page, it's absolutely covered in black and white drawings with a punch of color. So like I mentioned in the previous lesson, I love to use a bit of red, and as you can see here, it just makes your drawings pop. I like high contrasting drawings with lots of detail, lots of layering, lots of annotations, and as you can see, the implementation of a graphic style in the drawings really help define and communicate a narrative of the project and communicate the story that is behind the drawings. And the 3 graphic styles that I will show in this lesson will demonstrate how you can tell drastically different stories just through the use of color and line weights. And we're going to demonstrate that by showing you all of the Rayon styling tools to be able to bring your drawings to life. So the first style that I'm going to create from this black and white base is going to be a blue style. Now over this right hand side here, I've already defined a kind of color palette. And now defining a color palette is really important when creating any set of drawings because it helps you define a level of consistency throughout. There is a level of coordination. And of course, by showing these kind of 3 shades of blue, there is a style and there is a kind of layering and a hierarchy to the drawing that can be implemented. So these are the 3 colors that I'm going to work with this blue style, and there's going to be a hierarchy and a layering that we're going to play with. So although I've touched on many of these components already in this course, I'm going to quickly do a reminder. So there are 4 different types of styles. There's a text style, an annotation style, a shape style, and a wall style. So for example, if we start with a wall style, when you select your wall or when you start drawing a wall, you will all instantly have a kind of default style activated on that wall. And you can change, of course, the wall thickness, you can change the wall fill, and you have the option of choosing a solid fill, which could be black, for example, and you can change the opacity. You can also use the color picker, which is really handy. For example, once you've defined a color scheme, you can select the color, for example. And then you can have the option of saving that style. So we could call that blue wall. You have the option of choosing a texture using the default library, or heading over to the left and using Rayon's texture library, which you can choose from many different textures, which you can transform by scaling up and down. You can change the rotation, and then finally you can use a hatch, which you can also select. You can change the opacity, change the stroke, once again scale it up and down, rotate it, offset it. Additionally, with annotations, once again you can change the color, text, arrowhead, etc., as demonstrated in the previous lesson. Likewise with text, you can change the font size, and finally with shapes, you can once again change the fill hatch. In addition to saving a style to an element, you can also detach a style from an element. So for example, when we select this wall here, you can come to the right hand side and click detach, where you can then make this wall its own style. And a really useful tool to point out also is if you select an element and you click pick style, you can also select the item and it will match its style. And if you head over to the left hand side and select the styles tab, you can see that I have all of these shape styles, wall styles, text styles, and annotation styles saved in the left hand side. And these saved styles become really useful when you want to change multiple items that have that style assigned to it. For example, if we change this wall style, we can click the three dots, select edit. We could change that wall now to red, and all of those walls that have that style assigned to will also change. Now I hope that gives you a good summary of styles in Rayon. And now we're going to start implementing this blue style. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to the left hand side. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to give it a background. And I'm going to ensure that that is going to be dropped to the back of the drawing. And I'm going to draw a background using this light color here. And we're going to simply draw a rectangle, which is going to be our backdrop for the drawing. And then now this gives us a nice backdrop, which we can then right click and lock into place. So that layer is now locked. So we can now start working into these walls and assigning these colors. Now the walls are going to be this heavy blue color. To give that hierarchy, we want the walls to have that structure and to indicate that weight and thickness in the drawings. And so I'm going to come over to the left hand side. We're going to select the wall. I'm going to change that to this dark blue color, and we're also going to change the stroke to the same color too, so we've got a nice consistent wall wrapping round. And this item here, if we want to assign that style to this item, you'd come over, you click the quadrant button, and we'd select the dark blue item. And we're going to do the same with the internal walls. We're going to also make those the same color. Now, currently the furniture is quite prominent in the drawings with their white background. So I'm going to select the block, and I'm going to change the style by just removing the fill, which just makes them a little bit more subtle in the drawing and aren't so prominent. And then a really good little hack for you guys to be able to select multiple items that don't have a style currently assigned to them. You can right click on an item, you can select similar, so you can either do same style, layer, type, block. We're going to do same type, so we're going to select all the annotations. Then you can come over to the right hand side, you can change that style now to that same blue, and all of those items of that type will then change. And then we're also going to save that style to dimensions. So then on the left hand side here in the annotations, style tool bar, it will appear. And we're also going to edit that style just to make it a bit more subtle. So we're going to drop the opacity down to 50%. Now this is going to be a process of changing all of the styles to the same blue. And I'm just going to do this as we go along here to change all of the styles. And then the same with all of the text annotations. So selecting all of the text, changing all of those to blue, and then shifting the attention slightly to the elevation. You can do the same with the hatches. These are currently a little bit too heavy, so we're going to change those hatches to the same blue once again. And we're going to drop the opacity down to 50% just to make them a bit softer. And then you can also save that style. So we're going to save that as stone hatch. And then we can select multiple items and then change that by clicking the quadrant button. And the same in the background here, we've added some trees which we've imported. We're going to change those to blue, so everything is going to be the same blue color. And as you can see here, this is where the layering and the opacity works really well, where you have two items they're overlapping one another. You get that nice layered look in the drawing. It gives the drawing a bit of depth. And then a really useful tool to make note of is that you can also change the tiling of your hatch. So if you head down to the right hand corner here, you can change the rotation, you can change the offset, but you can also click into the hatch and change the hatch so that it is independent to any style. So even if you have a style assigned to it, you can rotate it, you can move it, and it won't change throughout. Now, with a bit of work, you'll arrive at something like this, where you can see pretty much everything has been assigned. With the blue, we now have a bit of a hierarchy with some of the items dropping a little bit further in the background with the opacity. And we now have quite a soft drawing using these kind of pastel blues. It's a little bit softer than the harsh black and white with the red tone, but I think it's a really nice subtle touch. The colours work really well, and it has that nice and soft feel to the drawing. So this is style number 1. Now the next style is going to be this rendered / textured style. So this is a really useful way of showing a realistic representation of your drawings, adding actual textures to indicate floor finishes, to indicate a realistic environment in a carpet, for example, the tiling throughout the kitchen, living and dining space. We've got some concrete floor for the garage, the patio area. And then when we go into the elevation, you can see that we've applied a colour to the stone. We've got green trees. And this isn't as of a kind of aesthetic drawing, but more representative of the real life scenario. And you can do this by, once again, selecting the item, changing these styles to whatever texture you feel is appropriate for the space that you are applying it to. For example, we could even go into textures on this right hand side, and we could change this to a kind of stone paving, for example, which would be extremely realistic. And you can then change the position of this tiling by activating the tiling at the bottom right corner. You can then scale this texture up and down, once again as previously shown. So we've got some really kind of big pieces of stone. But in principle, this is another example of how you can begin to use Rayon's hatches and textures to indicate a realistic environment. And in this drawing, we've also added some shadow, which is simply drawn by using the polyline, drawing around the items as indicated in the interiors model, interiors lesson. And then we can change a 10% shadow just to make the drawings have a bit of depth. And the final style is this inverted style, which is my personal favorite. Once again, going through the process of changing these styles in the left hand side, making everything white with a blue background locked in the background, and the drawings pop. It gives it that kind of blueprint drawing effect. It gives it the drawings a quality, a line quality that I think is really powerful and makes them pop. It's quite intriguing, and you want to read more into the drawings, and it shows a level of detail that might not necessarily be shown on a realistic style, for example. And likewise in elevation, you get a really nice strong graphic, for example, with these reflections in the windows. The hatches really begin to pop. You get a nice layered look in the background with the white annotations. And I just think an inverted drawing just looks really powerful, and it's my personal favorite. I tend to do inverted drawings a lot, and it's a really great way of just adding a level of detail to your drawings without really doing much, just by simply changing it with a black background or a dark blue in this instance. It makes your drawings really pop and have that level of detail and intrigue. And those are the 3 graphic styles that I wanted to indicate in this lesson. As you can see, there is a vast range of options with hatches, with textures, with fill colors, and the capabilities of Rayon with their styling tools is really powerful to start implementing your own graphic style and building a narrative around your drawings.